The title of today's essay is Belle Meade White Pizza, and it relates back to the Tennessee 7th Congressional District special election last Tuesday, 2 days ago, where the Democratic candidate, Ms. Behn, uh, lost the race but overperformed in what was a Trump plus 20 district. She hit a 9 spot, which is wonderful, and taking into consideration also that she is perhaps a more progressive candidate that ordinarily does well in what is still the Deep South in many ways. Nashville is funny because Tennessee as a whole, ex Nashville metropolitan area, so you subtract that area out and look at the demographics, then you're almost 75% white, with almost 16, 17% black. That is the state as a whole taking out Nashville. Nashville metropolitan area itself is about 55% white and 25% black. That was instructive only if you want to have an accurate visual representation of what gerrymandering is, successful gerrymandering. You would look at the way that the state chopped up the congressional districts, and it's often described as a pizza, where you to not to have it appear that it isn't over-engineered, which of course in today's Supreme Court era means less and less because um, political gerrymandering is allowed. It just the racial gerrymandering is frowned upon, still illegal, but the way that the Supreme Court is trending, that last stool of the VRA, the Voting Rights Act, is probably going to be taken out or so severely limited as to have no further effect, and that may happen this year. But if you want to have an interesting visual representation, that look up a map of the congressional districts, the way that it's chopped up to take only a small slice of the more concentrated African American population in the metropolitan district of Nashville, and that pizza slice narrow on out, and that's repeated to manipulate the districts in such a way that it doesn't have the appearance of being a racial gerrymander, but it is constructively exactly that. One city, or it is a city, uh, one part of the metropolitan area called Belle Meade. It is roughly 3,000 residents, about 900 homes. The median household income in that area is upwards of $250,000, which for U.S. as a whole, and particularly for Tennessee, is very well off, very well off. Belle Meade itself is over 95% white, with smaller percentages for uh, Hispanic, Asian, and the smallest representative set that is shown in the census data is the black population at, I believe, 0.7%. It's a very interesting slice of old. This is the new old South. It's interesting in that issues such as redlining and con- redlining itself is worth considering, because if people wanted to mm, move their families to an area with better schools, and there's plenty of wealth created in Nashville, because it isn't just country music, which people consider or think of historically as predominantly white, and that is true. But there's a large and very successful recording industry, which is anything but all white. So there are a lot of high net income um, African American residents. But here is this island called Belle Meade, which is starkly white, and um, uh, and it leads back into the gerrymandering, because if you want to overrepresent the power of the white vote in a way to maintain control on the congressional districts, then those pockets of highly concentrated white voters, it's a very useful tool when you're in the gerrymandering business. So, if you have any interest on an interesting visual representation, I'll drop something in the feed later on a congressional map that might help illustrate that. There's a very good article within the last week in in the Wall Street Journal about Belle Meade in particular. So, if you're from the area, it's beautiful. I visited that neighborhood once a number of years ago. I was at night, and I didn't get to really experience the glitter, glitz, and whiteness of the area, because it was pretty dark out. But Nashville, as you know, a beautiful city, and has a lot to offer, and beyond the dubious distinction of being called the bachelorette capital of the United States or something like that. Unfortunate, but that's the way things go. In any case, it was just something that, as the election passed, the discussion about Ms. Ben, her overperformance, but the connection of in the what is still very much a Southern mentality sort of state, with a lot of exclusions for non-whites. These hellacious enforcement actions now down in New Orleans by the Trump administration. It's deeply troubling, and it reminds us, as if we needed that reminder any further than what we see on our screens, that some pretty profound racial polarization issues still in the country. We have a long way to go. We currently don't have anybody in the White House or in the majority in the legislature that is willing to make meaningful steps at addressing that. They've, in fact, running in the other direction, and more interested in good people on both sides. source of Charlottesville statements than making productive and meaningful steps towards equality and unity as we go towards the holidays and what should be good cheer and brotherhood of men. It's challenging times, but stay tuned and appreciate your attention. Please take a look back in my feed for an ongoing um, contest I have, which is to suggest epitaphs for DJT. May he live a long and healthy life to his 100th year, but we want to be prepared. So if you have any suggestions, creative, sarcastic, absurd, clever, please drop them into the feed, and I'll figure out a way to give some sort of grand recognition, at least in this first portion of the contest, which will run until New Year's Day. And the first place winner will get fame, if not fortune, but will be distinguished in their own right for their clever participation. And we must remember that part of the success of the platform is people are very interested in their own numbers, and they are growing their following and their fan base, and that's absolutely delightful and very very Western and very American. But we can also, without costing each other much time or effort, we can support each other's work and comment, restack, and do all of those neat things that were made a part of the system, and help each other grow, because it isn't the Hunger Games. As more people navigate towards this platform, away from legacy news, ABC, CBS, NBC. Certainly, we hope navigating and migrating away from Fox as quickly as they can. Then there's enough room for everybody to eat. So keep that in mind in the spirit of the holiday season. You can support, restack, subscribe, and perhaps what I will endeavor to do myself when I find somebody that's doing a unique and wonderful thing on the platform, not just regenerating AI compositions, then consider sharing them off the platform to your following on Facebook and Twitter, and I keep wanting to say Bluetooth, but I mean Blue Sky, and Instagram, and wherever else you hang your hat in social media. It would be helpful and raise the awareness. There are plenty of people that haven't tried or given Substack, made an effort of it yet. They feel they're not writers. That's fine. There's plenty of room, and as I will continue to argue that the video essay, like I do, is ever more important, and it's almost become an imperative, because the written content, while there is some absolutely magnificent written content. I'm not going to name names because I'll leave somebody out, but even seasoned, bona fide journalists, such as, for example, John Dickerson of Slate Political Gabfest, having recently given his notice for his network job, I guess effective end of the year, I believe. And he's here writing clever, pithy anecdotes, lessons, stories, quotes, and things. So that's just one example of people that are worthy of support. And there are a lot of newer media types. So be open, comment, even if it's a one liner, something short, in appreciation or a comment or uh, criticisms. You can do offline or in the DMs. I mean, if you're criticizing me, go right at it. But I mean to other people that are actually sensitive and more deeply caring. So again, I appreciate it, and just a pre-holiday plea for a push to support your fellow Substackers. I'm not saying this because mine's free, um, but there are some people that support themselves here, so give them a look. You don't have the money to subscribe in that way, that's fine. Then subscribe and leave a comment. And when your financial circumstances allow, then maybe you'll jump on for a few. I've got a list, and I just came to Substack myself. I guess middle of this year, uh, plus or minus. Um, let's say July, and I had I had heard of Substack. I knew of it. I've done writing, but it's been 20 years since I've done anything in this particular area. And with an early in the latter part of the first quarter of this year, had a brief and intimate contact with cancer, and everything. Treatment's wonderful, and none of it's wonderful, but the outcome was like. But it uh, uh, it is a interesting wake up call to make one think of what they could be doing with their time, and with the Trump administration making an almost endless supply of material, and the need in a collective action. You'll hear me say that uh, once a podcast, once a stream, once a video. We all have a duty. You're pro-Trump? Have at it. But for those of us that are sincerely concerned about the country and democracy, it is our duty to be, I would argue, to take one substantive action every day in furtherance of democracy. Support First Amendment rights. That's very broad, but there are a lot of things you can do. In the collective action, you've seen my posts and those of many others that corporations that aren't treating their employees or customers well, Disney as an example, read, connect, learn a little bit about the companies that are doing a bad job by their employees and their customers, or in the alternative, companies like Costco, as an example, who have made a principled stand, repeated it, and stood up and said, no, DEI is a, is a good business practice. It helps us, and it helps any company that cares to make an effort. But yeah, so just be aware and use the power of your wife's purse to make strategic decisions around medium to large purchases. You can you can find that information. You've heard of AI. You know the Google machine, and so that information is out there. If you have any questions, I'm in that space researching that a little bit every day. So I have my own opinions, which I share freely. But that's a subject that's best um, as collective action. That's great, but do your own work to begin with, because to have the buy-in and the certitude to act in a meaningful way, it will it will feel to you that you are fully invested in this American democratic um, experiment, which is a new experiment. We're dealing with something we've never dealt with before, or at least since Reconstruction. So get in there, take a shot, even take a little shot. I last item on this list is we canceled our Prime membership. Whenever it was, it's 125, 130, 140, whatever it is a year. So we buy things from other places. We sometimes pay a small amount of shipping, but we're shopping in stores more these days than everybody was during COVID. And there are other retailers that are anxious to earn your business, not Target, not Amazon, others. Um, Costco, as mentioned, a Costco membership, do the math. It may make sense if you can purchase things in that kind of bulk, or if you're in a condominium, um, then maybe you go in with your neighbor. If you don't need 47,000 rolls of toilet paper this week, maybe you split it with your neighbor. And what you did was you supported a business that's supporting their own employees and 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 showing respect to their customers by making that choice. So enough on the preacher from on high on collective action. But it is my favorite subject, because between um, you know before the midterm and then between the midterm until the general, we got a lot of Trump. We got 3 more years unless he does the country a great service and decides to retire and just play golf. But we have to assume that he won't do that. The men, if some of them are, or at least males, that are standing in line fighting Rubio and JD Vance and the other people that showed what weak-minded and ineffectual human beings they are by laying down and letting Trump drive the truck over them. Those aren't leaders. Those aren't people that you're going to elect to lead your country. Even mega believers who hopefully are have learned a few things recently too. That's not the kind of person that you want leading your country. Certainly, Donald Trump is not that either. But he's a singular individual, a huge personality. Um, and those other men, little Marco Fidel Castro wasn't my daddy, but maybe he kind of was, and I hate him and love him, and all roads to Havana lead through Caracas, and I want to be the czar of Latin America. No, no. You had your 15 minutes. You're done. JD Vance, so smug, so smug, and he served his country honorably, but he has behaved dishonorably ever since through Charlie Kirk, through not defending his wife and his children because they're not white Anglos, which is absolutely fucking despicable. And then the other cast of characters. If you've got you got love for Marjorie Taylor Greene, have at it. You're a better man than no, you're not. But perhaps you're looking for more punishment than I'm looking for. There are and a few in the Pete Hegseth. No, he's done. I don't know if they may welcome him back to Fox, but he was underqualified for that job, and he's grossly uh, miscast as Secretary of Defense, not War. And Scott Bessent, no, thank you. Mr. Sachs, the AI czar, with investments in 400 companies that have business before the U.S. government, no, thank you. So, but a character like a John Thune-esque character, a man that was once more of a Reagan Republican, um, someone whose word you could trust, someone with traditional values that align better with the Republican Party. And I am still curious in an unhealthy way. Liz Cheney, will she put herself and her family through what that would mean to put her name out there because she stood up like the only not the only she and Adam Kinzinger and a few others stood up in a principled way. Can they make a case? See, but I am not a Republican voter, and after the Trump experience, less likely, as I shared, my only two Republican votes were for Ronald Reagan and for Bill Weld for governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and that was a Reagan 2.0 vote, so that means it was 84. And Bill Weld was, I'm guessing, late 80s, but I'm blanking on the year, but great guy, great family, kind of a, a Republican version of the Kennedys in the northern part of Massachusetts type guy. Uh, sailor, Harvard, earnest, intelligent, and moderate Republican. Ain't many of those left. So I've droned on too long. I'm inside because although I will endeavor to go outside every single day, it was getting a little bit dark. Believe me, believe it at this hour. My first walk of the day was at 9 degrees, which I think 9 degrees Fahrenheit, which probably translates to minus 13, 14 degrees Celsius. For those of you smart kids from Cambridge, Celsius. It was cold, but it's almost winter. It's northern Massachusetts, so love it or get your ass out. Um, Bruins, Celtics, Patriots doing really well. Red Sox, of course, National League team. Wishing you all a beautiful day, and we will catch up with you sometime tomorrow. Thank you very much. Enjoy your evening.